Mom became obsessed with politics and started an emotional affair with some guy online, then threatened to falsely accuse my dad of absay when he wouldn't pay her internet bill after their divorce. I, 16M, have always been, or at least was, very close to my mother. I always knew that if I needed help, she would be there for me regardless of what it was. My dad, 52M, on the other hand, though we loved each other and still do, wasn't as involved in my personal life as much, usually having to know how I was feeling through my mom. This, however, changed some months ago. Around January, my mom started to obsess with politics and Twitter, not U.S. politics, as I don't live there, spending more and more time on the site, arguing with strangers and being on the phone with some of the friends she made there. As time went on, she slowly started to isolate herself from her family and friends, closing herself in her room, barely speaking with my dad and I. The relationship between my parents hasn't been the best for the last 3 years. Because of different reasons, they became distant and rarely talked. At times, it seemed as if they were just roommates sharing a house and talking only when it was necessary. Between her and I, though, there have never been any problems. Some occasional arguing, sure, but nothing serious. So it really hurt to see how she pushed me out of her life. This went on for some months, until recently, about a month ago, by accident. I heard how she told one of her friends things like, "I love you, honey, and I don't know what I would do without you." I exploded. I screamed at her without insulting or being threatening. That said, I'm not proud of what I did and have already apologized for losing my temper and started to cry. I felt betrayed and felt horrible for my dad, though. In the end, he didn't take it too badly since he kind of expected it. She kept telling me how this guy gave her the attention that she lacked at home and how it wasn't cheating because they didn't have sex. It would have been pretty difficult since the guy literally lives in another island. I won't say where I'm from, but know that most of the country is in Europe, but it owns a bunch of islands in the Atlantic. I told her that her excuses were stupid and to stop trying to justify her actions. And then my father came home. He found me almost having an anxiety attack and after calming a bit, told him everything. To sum up, they agreed to a friendly divorce and everything was as fine as it could be. Or at least it was until a week ago when, because of a stupid thing, she wanted him to pay for the internet in the house, even if he didn't live there. My mother started to scream at my dad, telling him that she was fed up, that he always did, the same, and that he was manipulating me to hate her, when in fact it was quite the opposite. She said some really awful things, threatened to falsely accuse him of domestic abuse, go to court to get my full custody, and even pushed me because I was supposedly about to hit her, even though I would never dare to even think to hurt her. After a lot of screaming, I had a full-on anxiety attack. I started wailing while she just kept telling me, "Look what your father's doing to you if he just paid." None of this would have even happened, and if you love him so much, leave with him. But in the end, you will understand that I'm right. Needless to say, I was a mess. I had never seen her act in such a way, and it hurt me a lot. We called my grandma, and she asked me to give her a hug before going to sleep, even if what she said was that bad. And so I did. Not because I wanted to forgive her, but because my grandma would calm a bit. But to add insult to injury before, even apologizing, which she didn't do at that moment. One of the first things she said was that I should stop insulting the guy she found on Twitter because he respects me and my father a lot. To which I said, whatever. But again, it hurt that, even after all the things that happened that day, the first thing she could think of was that I insulted her boyfriend to whom I think, oh, no respect. Someone trying to date a married person because he knew she was married doesn't deserve to be treated with respect if you ask me. And here I am, a week after this incident, and still a mess. She has apologized for most of what she said and has started to be really affectionate, giving me hugs and trying to talk to me more often, but I just can't see her in the same way as before, and she isn't even trying to change her behavior that much. She still spends way too much time on Twitter, and I don't know what to do. I don't think I want to cut her off, but every time I see her, I get in a bad mood and just want to go outside to take a walk or meet up with my friends so that I can relax and think about other stuff. So, what should I do? My dad and the rest of my family are encouraging me to value her efforts to recover our old relationship, but I don't know if I will be able to, or at least if I even want to leave this behind. Comments where Op has replied, Comment 1. If it were me, I'd try to live with your dad. Even if you're not as close, I'd say he comes off fairly well in this story. Oop, I didn't make it clear in the post, but now my dad and I are really close. When I began to feel sidelined, he was there to help me, and I value that a lot. Comment 2. Be careful with how she tries to rebuild the relationship. She's obviously very manipulative and willing to lie to hurt others when she doesn't get her way. She may be blanketing you in affection to try and make you feel guilty and come to her side and poison you towards your dad. If her affection is like this, it will be gone the next time you stand up for yourself or your dad. When that happens, remember that family is about helping when it's hard, not giving love when it's easy. Typically, the parent who deals with the divorce more responsibly and amicably is going to be the parent that you should look to for guidance, and that does not seem to be her. Oop, I wouldn't say manipulate, but she's trying to play the let's leave everything behind card, which I'm not buying. Oop responds to a comment about guilt tripping. Thank you for the advice, and I'm sorry to hear what you went through. My mom is kind of doing the same in some aspects. She has tried to guilt trip me, telling me how she had to leave her job and her friends to take care of me. I was a very sickly child and had to go regularly to the hospital because of it. But it makes no sense because it hasn't been like that for the last 8 years, and has also talked about my dad and his it's mine too, family who she hates, while also saying how she loves him, but just not in a romantic way. Comment 3. You don't have to save this. As much as it sucks, our parents are just people. They are stupid and make mistakes and have crazy thoughts and make bad decisions. They are absolutely no different than any of our friends. At 16, you are very nearly as mature as many parents, no matter what their age. You have values and knowledge of right and wrong, so yes, you can absolutely choose to judge what your parents do, and you can absolutely choose to not forgive them at any time. Before you choose to do this, try to look at your mother and your parents as an outsider, not as their child. Your mother has had an emotional affair, and some people see that as cheating, and some just see it as a horrible warning. Your parents have decided to divorce for this. You cannot fix it or go back. You will have to decide how to go forward, but their relationship is their problem just as it would be for your friends. You are going to have to get through this and somehow live with it. At 16, you still have to have parents. Try not to take this on as your problem. Look at her as a troubled person that has made bad decisions. You don't have to like those decisions or forgive them, but you cannot let them affect your every moment. Oop. I have learned that the hard way. Since the moment I discovered that things between them were going south, I tried to act as a mediator between the two, which only hurt me in the long run because, I was like 13 at the time, and a kid shouldn't have to worry about these things, but still I chose to despite my dad telling me not to. Oop responds to a longer comment about boundaries when it comes to his parents' relationship. It was usually my mother who told me what was going on. My dad tried to not get me involved, usually telling me to not worry that this is not something I should be worrying about at this age, and asking my mom to stop telling me about this kind of things, that they are adults and I was a kid, so it was them who should figure things out. I won't lie though, and whenever the chance presented itself, I would snoop around and try to hear what they were saying even if it was none of my business. Now, I understand that it was wrong, but at the time, I just couldn't stop myself from doing it. And I hope that my dad isn't crazy. From what I've seen, it doesn't seem likely. He always acts calmly and in an objective, responsible way. But you never know. Update. So, hi. I posted here nearly 6 years ago about how strained my relationship with my mother had become after she closed herself off from both me and my father because of her obsession with politics. Again, not going to get into it. A lot of stuff has happened since then, so I figured I could make an update. I debated for a while if I should even make this update since, after all, it's been half a decade since I made the original post and it didn't even get that much attention. In the end, though, I think it will give me a bit of closure which has been difficult to find otherwise. Oh, and again, English is not my first language. Yada, yada. Sorry for any mistakes. For starters, I ended up moving out permanently from my mother's house not long after I posted. We had a couple big arguments about her behavior in which she kept insisting that she had done nothing wrong, and I should not be upset at her. I tried using some of the recommendations I got from people here, some of which were questionable to say the least, such as setting some clear boundaries with her, but nothing really worked. The straw that broke the camel's back, though, was when she told me that my uncle's, her brother's, cancer had come back only as a way to hurt me since she didn't mention it, before to avoid causing me even more stress. She kept that information in her back pocket until I pissed her off enough to want to hurt me. So, yeah, really nice of her. As I mentioned before, I moved out and I ended up living with my dad and my grandma a couple towns over. By then, I was getting close to turning 18, so there wasn't much she could do to stop me. And to her credit, she didn't. After that last incident, I pretty much cut her off, and it has stayed that way up until now, with a couple exceptions. The main one being that my grandfather ended up passing away in 2022. So, I re-established contact with her partly as a way to try to make my other grandmother happy after, her husband died, and partly because in a way I did miss her. As you might guess, it did not work out. At first, things seemed to be going slightly better than last time since she didn't push as hard for my affection and seemed more respectful of my boundaries. That was until Christmas of that same year when she told me that she was going to commit suicide once her mother died since there was nobody in the world who loved her, not so subtly implying that it was my fault. That obviously shook me. But more than that, it made me angry. I realized that it was most likely a bluff to guilt me into forgiving her for everything, and that even if it wasn't, it was not a burden I should have to carry on my back. So I cut her off again, this time for good. Other than that, and for me personally, these years have been a bit of a roller coaster with quite a few highs and lows. I finished high school, got into college, gained 40 kilong, lost 25 of them, got really depressed, slowly crawled out of it, made some new friends, lost some old ones. Right now, though, I'd say that I'm better than ever. I turned 22 a few months ago, and for the first time in a while, I look forward to the future. I just graduated from college. I'm officially a historian now. I already got into the master's I want to do. I have a pretty chill job, and next year I'm planning on staying for a few months in Belgium, thanks to a EU program. Things are not perfect, of course, but I have a strong support system which has helped me not completely fall apart these last few years. My dad, in particular, has been my rock all this time, and our bond is stronger than ever. Even though him and I are very different, he didn't always know how to help me. He really gave it his all, and I couldn't be more thankful. So, yeah, these almost 6 years have not been easy, but I feel like I've come out on the other side, happier and stronger. Thanks again to the people who gave advice last time, and have a good one. Comment where OP has replied. Comment: I'm glad to hear you're doing relatively well, and congratulations on the college graduation and master's admission. You may want to check out for more support. Even if your mother isn't diagnosed narcissist, we helped people with lots of situations of self-centered parents who don't support or even undermine their children, whether minors or adult children. Oop, thank you. And I have already lurked there from time to time, but I always felt that my experience was somewhat different from what people usually post there. I don't really know how to put it into words, but I have always felt that the awful things that my mom did/said to me did not come from a person who thought she was the center of the world, but rather someone who was fundamentally broken and who, instead of seeking help and trying to improve, would rather lash out and hurt those around her once they eventually got fed up with her antics. Still, thank you for the recommendation. I think it's great that support groups like this one exist.